star player Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers. They're 21-9, taking on a Boston team that is second in the East after the Bucks. Since the arrival of Kemba, Boston has been trending in the right direction. Credit his leadership in addition to the production as well. Joining us now, Richard Jefferson. He's calling the game out there in Toronto. Richard, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thanks to you for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, I
like this. I love the tux, the velvet, just for the holiday.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse
yes.
me. Excuse me.
Yes. How you feel? How do I look? I feel like I look good. I'm sorry.
Richard,
I know.
you're looking
Not everybody can pull this off.
You look like you always feel like you look good.
Smooth right now. I can't front.
All right, guys, let's get it. Stephen A., I want to start with you here. Has Kemba made the Celtics better than Kyrie did?
I have to concede because it's something that Max has been saying a long time. I have to concede yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes. I'm finally got to that conclusion. But it's not just because of what I'm seeing from Kemba with the Celtics. It's because of what I've seen from Kawhi in Brooklyn. The guy hasn't been Kyrie. I'm sorry, Kyrie. He hasn't been there. He's been out for a lengthy period of time. And we all know the noise that was emanating out of Brooklyn prior to his going down. And so because of that, when you consider what we're seeing from Boston right now, it's undeniable that you have to give credit where credit is due. First of all, when you think about Kemba, he's a tad bit shy of Kyrie Irving in terms of skill set. But he's the quintessential replacement, the perfect successor to Kyrie because of what he brings to the table on the court in terms of his ball handling skills, his shot-making ability, his scoring ability overall, and his miniature size. All those things he brings to the equation, relatively similar to Kyrie. But what clearly appears to be the case in Boston is that you have an abundance of people around him ecstatic to be playing with him. There doesn't appear to be any personal demons, any drama, or anything like that that would inhibit his ability to perform or compromise the kind of relationship he could have with his teammates. That clearly was something that was going on in Boston last year because Kyrie admitted the losing of a grandparent, if I remember correctly, something along those lines. The bottom line is that kind of compromised him. There were other things like I brought up, the Gordon Hayward being inserted in the starting lineup prematurely, stuff like that. I still stand by that, but there's no way around the fact this team looks better and happier with Kemba.
That's the thing. It's a team game. I mean, look. You said it. If you're looking for an approximation of Kyrie Irving in terms of what you do on the court, you can't do better than Kemba Walker. It's almost like if you're looking for Michael Jordan, there's Kobe Bryant. It's like almost the same thing, but one is a little better than the other. Kyrie is better than Kemba. His talent is pitched a little higher. His skills are a little bit better. But Kemba's a fantastic player. But you would think if you swap those two out just based on what you do on the floor or what you're capable of doing, you would get a little worse with Kemba. But I thought it was predictable that they would get better. Because whatever you want to say about Coach putting Hayward in before he was ready and Jaylen Brown or Tatum feeling any kind of whatever, I mean, the big thing to me is who's running the show, what effect does that have on his teammates? And with Kyrie, I saw a hole. And by the way, this even goes to the previous season. When Kyrie was hurt, they functioned better as a unit than when Kyrie was healthy. So what happened to the other players? All of a sudden, Tatum, who looked like an emerging superstar, stalled out. All of a sudden, Jaylen Brown really didn't develop. Gordon Hayward, okay, he had a bad season. Look at them all now. Every single forward I just mentioned took a step forward. And obviously, that's partly due to the fact that Kemba Walker creates an atmosphere where people like to play.
Richard, where are you on this?
Well, look, this is a much bigger story. I think you look at what happened with Isaiah Thomas and you go back to how he exited Boston, right? Having a loved one with the injury. Then Kyrie comes in. Obviously, there were some circumstances there. Kyrie had an injury late in his first year. His father passed away at the beginning of his last year there. So, look, there's always going to be a lot of things, and it's always about the head of the snake. When Kyrie was in Boston, he was the head of the snake. It wasn't about, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were only in their second year and in their third year, and they were still growing and getting better and learning how teams were going to adjust to them. It was about Kyrie. It wasn't about Gordon Hayward and his injury, and if they inserted him too quickly. It was about Kyrie. So Kyrie understands this. Many of the years that he played with Braun, he understands that the head of the snake is always going to get the attention. Should he get all of the positive? Some of it. Should he get all of the negative? some of it. So I'm not going to sit here and just say Kyrie and Kemba, this is it. This is the number one thing. Yes, Kemba is playing great. This team is playing great. But we're also talking about Jason Tatum and how he's elevated his game and how he's grown with Kemba, with Jaylen Brown. So I don't want to just give all the credit of their success to Kemba. A lot of it has to do with their own growth.
Richard, I don't understand this, because when you saw the Celtics with and without Kyrie before Kemba got there, before when Kyrie was still on the team, but he was hurt and not playing how the team performed, you clearly saw a unit that was happier and functioning better without Kyrie. Then you bring in, how many different variables do you need to see?
Look, I'm not going to give people a preview of what happened with the Jordan Bulls and all this, and I'm not comparing Kyrie to Jordan, but happiness is not always a part of basketball. It's about winning, and sometimes it's about sacrifice. So we can't just sit here and say that, like, hey, they're happier, and so they're going to ultimately, Richard, the goal is to win a championship. Some of the most dysfunctional teams I've ever been on were the most successful.
That's not an argument.
I'm not going to sit here and just talk about happiness.
Hold on. You're going at a straw man right now. Never mind happiness. I'm going to get you right now. Forget happiness. When Kyrie was playing with the Celtics, they performed less well as a unit than when he wasn't, when they performed better. Then, no more Kyrie, now Kemba, and the team is performing better than ever.
Yes, and Max, I agree with you 100%. My only point on this is sometimes younger players, when they have success, it can be a little difficult for them to dial back their game when they're still trying to grow. And the minute Kyrie steps on that floor, he is the best player. He needs to have the ball in his hands, and you have to adjust to your best player. Now, Kyrie has to do some adjusting also, but when young players are trying to grow and trying to see what they're capable of, sometimes there can be growing pains. So we can't always blame that on just Kemba or just Kyrie. We can't just blame that on individuals. It's really a collective team.
And not just that, we'll see, because at the end of the day, if the Boston Celtics end up getting bounced out in the second round, then what does it mean? Was it really, really a better year? We got to pay attention to all of that, because in the end, if you end up equating or achieving the same result, then where does happiness come into the equation then? We concede the fact that they're happier now. There is no doubt about that. But when I brought up Gordon Hayward, I talked about how the year started. You can't have a guy, because I like Gordon Hayward a lot. You cannot have a guy that is clearly inhibited physically being inserted into the starting lineup, starting the year off that way, and then couple that with Kyrie's drama and think it's going to work out for you.
No, so far you're right, Max, but we have to see if it continues into the playoffs. Kemba is averaging just 1 point per game less than Kyrie, so not much of a drop-off in production, but a huge upgrade in leadership and chemistry. And don't sleep on the Toronto Raptors. They've been quite a surprise without having Kawhi. Richard?
Can I say, before
thank
Richard
you so much for being with us.
Before Richard goes, may I ask you a quick question? Are you the best man in the wedding today in Toronto? I just want to know. I just want to know if you're the best man in the wedding today in Toronto.
I brought my best out. This is my first Christmas Day game. I'm just hoping they'll have me back. That's all it is, really.
Richard, Richard, ignore them. You're on.